Alright, so welcome back to the channel. So this is part 2 of the Providence recast resin kit build. So initially I was thinking of pulling all these parts off after the test fit and then soaking them in the um, dishwash soap to clean off the resin coating. But I just spoke to a friend and he suggested maybe I start doing some sanding first before that. And I was actually wondering how much do you need to sand. He said the best part is to actually, even if the surface looks smooth, to try even sanding a little bit, even with a 1000 grit sandpaper, just to ensure that the um, surface of the resin will allow the paint to adhere when I start spraying with the airbrush. So that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to follow his advice. I'm going to pull off the parts, start some sanding onto it before the next step of washing it. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do next. All right, so I've taken up all the resin parts of the Providence kit. So these are all the just the resin parts, right? So as I said, the next thing I need to do is I'm actually going to start sanding them as much as I can, and before putting them for the wash. So some of the sanding steps that I'm going to use are these. These are the sanding steps. I think these are, it's a Japanese brand. I can't remember the name, but I think they are part of God Hand. I'm not so sure. But anyway, I have 400, 600, 800. And these are the sticks that I may be using. Yeah, I've actually sanded some of them prior to the test fit. And then I also have this God Hand cloth like sanding paper, if you like. So this comes in let's see, 240 grit, 400 grit, 600 grit, and 800 grit. I'm probably just going to use the 600 and 800 grit just to start off and try sanding this as much as I can. But sanding with resin, as mentioned, with many builders, it's very toxic. So I'm going to try a bit of wet sanding so that the dust remains collected and not flies around. And I'm going to do obviously have a mask, respirator mask for my painting on at the same time. Okay. Alright, so after I have used the 600 grit and 800 grit sandpaper onto the sanded pieces, I'm now going to do the next part, which is washing. So I put them all into any container you have. I have this disposable food containers that I have. Then I get some lukewarm water, right? Lukewarm, and then submerge the pieces in the water, right? And because I've seen most people use a degreaser called Purple Power, but we don't have it here, so I'm just going to use Dawn, which I heard is also good. The reason why we are doing this washing is because these resin pieces come with a coating, right? So this resin coating needs to be removed. If you do not remove it, then the paint adherence apparently is not that great. So that's why it's important to soak it in some sort of detergent, yeah, and then leave it at least overnight. That's what I heard, and then to allow this coating, this resin coating, especially when they use the molding process, there's a coating on top of the resin pieces, and this needs to be removed. If you do not, then it's going to be not unpaintable. Okay, so I'll just put in some of the Dawn, and I'm going to mix this up, leave it overnight, and then we'll clean it the next day. Yeah. All right, so I'm just going to close the lid and leave it overnight, these pieces overnight. All right. Okay, so the pieces have been soaked for overnight, on almost a day. So the other thing is to take a toothbrush and then start scrubbing the thing. Yeah, scrubbing. So making sure that the resin coating does dislodge itself from the parts. Yeah. Give it a good scrub. Put in some water. Scrub it on the water as well. Dip it in there, yeah. And then continue for every part, just to make sure that all that resin coating is removed. Yeah, good scrub. Some clean water, give it a good scrub as well. And after this, I will then rinse these parts out and dry them on a paper towel, like that. All right. Okay, I'm going to continue doing this. So after all the resin parts have dried up, I left it overnight, I'm now taking my display scriber to re-scribe all the lines. That's what is done. This is to allow to ensure that you have good nice lines when you do your panel lines later on the kit. Yeah, so I'm going to try to re-scribe all the lines as much as I can to ensure that they are all easy when I start applying the panel line ink onto these lines. Yeah, so this is going to be another process which is going to take some time to finish, but yeah, so it's just going to get that all done. All right. Okay, so after the priming stage, is actually now to check for some further flaws. So you can see it once your primer, you can see a little bit. So I'm just going to start sanding it a little bit again and then re-primering the thing. Okay, so this is kind of the tedious part of the build with resin. You need to ensure that the parts are smooth, so that they come out well and smooth once you start spraying them. Yeah, so now I go through all the process of looking at all the parts and seeing which ones have some imperfections that may require some additional sanding to get it back into the right shape, so to say. Okay, so this is like going part by part and checking to ensure any sorts of imperfections are, as we say, removed, sanded down, ensuring that it's smooth once you paint it, so you don't get any of these issues, so to say. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead, look at all the parts and see where I can find the imperfections, and hopefully correct them as much as I can. Yeah, and then go and re-prime it, and then we can go on to the painting process. Right, so we'll be back at the next stage of re-priming the pieces. Right? All right, so the next step is to do a masking. So I actually got a pre-cut masking set for the Providence. Had a look at it. It's actually really confusing and kind of overwhelming as well, but I'm just still going to give it a try. And it comes in pieces like this, and then you need to follow the guide inside the manual. It tells you, like, for example, part A01 is A, and then it's designated in 1. You need to look at it closely, and there's lines that will tell you A1, A2, and then I marked it all in there already. So I've got a part that you see I just sprayed the black at the back, which I need to mask. So I need to pick up the piece from here and then put it on. Okay, it's really fragile, I think, so you need to be very careful when picking up the masking part from this base. Yeah, like that. Yeah, so pick it up and then place it on the right area. Yeah, and then smooth it out and then go to the next. Yeah, and then line it up with the piece like so. There are some which are going to be really small. I'm not sure how am I going to do it, but my first time, and I hope it works out. See, it's not easy to even apply simply because they are very thin, very precisely cut, and you don't want to be you need to be gentle with it in case it tears, right? You don't want it to tear. Probably doing it the wrong way, but it's always the first time, right? Learning experience. But yeah, the spraying process has been quite not an easy task. You need to figure out stuff, and I'm not sure whether I'm doing it right, but I'm still just doing it, just to make sure that I try my best and follow what I think is the best path to actually like which part to spray first. Some people are doing it part by part, but I'm not sure. I think that method is going to be very slow, and you need lots of patience if you're going to do it that way, clean the airbrush each time. So I've decided to try as much as possible to spray color by color, although not entirely all the same color at the same time, but as much as I can. Yeah, so like these parts are masked, so now I can spray the other color on top and hopefully everything turns out okay. All right, back to the spraying. All right, so I spent quite some time trying to put in the masking tape, okay, from the cutout sheet, pre-cut sheet. I've put in on some, and also I had to add some of my own masking. So next thing is to go back to the painting booth to go to the next step. I may reprime some of them, and then others I may start painting the other colors onto it. All right. All right. So some of the parts have been sprayed with the masking as well. So I'm just going to try to remove some of them, and while waiting to mask remask again. So just have a look how they look like. Again, first time masking. Well, it's not perfect, but at least there is some color separation, something that I've never really done before. Yeah, and this masking and spraying process is definitely time consuming. Yeah. And as it's the first time, so results are, I guess, a learning process. I wouldn't say it's perfect yet. And actually this entire process of masking and spraying and all that on this resin kit has really overwhelmed me quite a bit. But yeah, I'm still gunning to try to finish the entire kit. You can see here as well some of the other parts that has been sprayed, and I'm just taking them off the packs to let them dry out as we go on to the next. It's a really spray, repeat, mask, prime kind of process. So you really need to have patience and a lot of time, honestly, to do this. If not, and again, I'm not used to this. Never really spray painted or mask my kits much. So excuse me, it's definitely a learning process. You can see here some color separation, and yeah, like I said, not perfect, but it's entirely new learning process for me. So I'm just going to go ahead and open up as much as the parts that has been already spray painted, and so that you don't want the I think you don't want the masking tape to be sitting too long, and yeah, right, because sometimes the paint it shouldn't, but it could actually stick on and remove some of the paint, and you really don't want that. So that's why, as I finish some of the parts and I think they are dry enough, I am removing uh, all the masking, so that the chances of that happening is low, and yeah, avoid any of the paint being stuck and removed by the masking tape itself. You can see this, some of these parts are, the masking is just so, using the pre-cut masking is just so thin and even difficult to remove. Yeah, okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and continue the process of removing all the masking tape as much as I can, and continue to mask some other parts, and yeah, continue the entire process until I finish the kit. All right, be right back with the next one.